This is a full story. Puppy wishes you all a happy and enjoyable story. My husband received a year-end bonus of several million. I took over 100,000 to get cosmetic treatments. Coincidentally, our son brought his girlfriend home for a visit. When the girlfriend saw me, she got angry. She didn't eat anything and stormed out. Our son tried to calm her down for a long time, but it didn't work. The girlfriend said, "Your mom is too extravagant. She's spent all my money." I was taken aback, then smiled and patted my son's shoulder. "Don't worry, son, a girlfriend is just a girlfriend. She's still a long way from being a wife." In his junior year of college, our son started dating a girlfriend. It was his first love, and he treasured her. We supported him, so once we learned he was dating, we increased his allowance from 3,000 to 5,000. Half a year later, our son said his girlfriend wanted to visit us. My husband and I aren't old-fashioned. Whether the young couple will marry or not, it doesn't hurt for us to know about our son's preferences, so we readily agreed. My husband, Rocky, said mysteriously, "This girl's family background is probably much worse than ours, and her upbringing is average." I was a bit confused, thinking it was rude for him to comment on others without reason. "Don't say that. Girls today aren't like we were. They don't have so many rules." Rocky nodded and pointed at my nose. "You don't understand, do you? Girls from good families, or those who are outstanding themselves, won't take the initiative to meet the boyfriend's parents." I frowned slightly. After a moment of thought, I realized he had a point. "I've transferred 5 million from the year-end bonus to you. Spend it as you like." I looked at the large balance in my account, and then at myself in the mirror. "How about I do a few projects?" Rocky smiled brightly. "Sure, do as many as you like. Just remember not to go hungry." Rocky and I are each other's first love, married for 25 years. Just because I gave up my job for the family, Rocky has spoiled me my whole life. He usually only keeps a few hundred in his pocket. He hands over everything else to me to manage. Friends often say I shouldn't be so frugal. We're so well off, I should take care of myself. Rocky supports me too. He says he wants to see a beautiful me, because the beautiful me looks very happy. So I saved part of the money in an account. I prepared for our son, invested some, and kept 50,000 to indulge myself. I hesitated for a long time at the cosmetic clinic. Before settling on 3 procedures, I paid in full, with 3 months in between. The total cost was 14,000. I lay on the treatment bed with anesthetic. The nurse, worried I might feel stuffy, left the treatment room door slightly open. A few minutes later, I heard 2 girls chatting by the door. Girl A, "So annoying, the thermage costs over 30,000, that's just too expensive." Girl B, "Exactly. Every time I see those aunties getting treatments, I just feel frustrated." Girl A, "They have money, we can only envy them." Girl B, "What right do they have to do beauty treatments? With their sagging faces, they don't look good after anyway." Girl A, "Hey, don't say that, they're spending their own money." Girl B, "They shouldn't spend that money, it should be for young people like us. Who are they trying to please after the treatments? They're all old and ugly, with no glow on their faces. Do they still want to attract men?" Girl A, "Alright, stop it. We'll be old one day too." Girl B, "Whatever, when I'm old, I'll just give that money to young girls. I wouldn't want to come here and embarrass myself." The more I listened, the angrier I got. What? Is it wrong for women of a certain age to spend their own money to please themselves? The nurse came in and noticed my expression wasn't right. After a few questions, I told her what I heard. The nurse smiled. "Don't be angry, ma'am. These girls come often. They try every way to take advantage of our promotional materials. They distort our intentions, and if they can't get treatments, they threaten to sue us." I sighed. Sigh, what kind of parents raise such ill-mannered kids? The next day after my treatments, my face was severely swollen, but our son called and said, "Mom, my girlfriend is coming to visit you today at noon." I was shocked. "Oh, so sudden. Why didn't you tell me in advance?" "I haven't made any reservations." Warm said it's not necessary, we can just have something at home. Before I could say more, my son hurriedly hung up. I quickly followed the doctor's instructions, applying an ice mask, hoping to reduce the swelling. I didn't want to scare my son's girlfriend with my swollen face, but before I could finish applying the mask, my son pushed the door open and came in. Behind him was a beautifully dressed girl. She smiled and said, "Hello, Auntie. I'm Jack's girlfriend. My name is Alice." I hurried to greet her. "Oh, come in, come in. I'm so unprepared. I'm still wearing this mask." Alice didn't mind my appearance at all. She walked right in and started looking around the house. Her eyes were full of satisfaction. "Honey, your home is so big. It must be around 200 square meters?" I felt a shiver inside. They've only been dating for a few months, and she's already calling my son honey? The youth these days really are sweet. My son guided Alice to the sofa. I poured her a cup of tea. She smiled and asked me, Auntie, you big city folks must have more than just this house, right? Was this small talk or inquiry? I chose to treat it as small talk. We have a smaller one in the city center. She nodded in satisfaction. Oh, that's good. Otherwise, when Jack and I get married, you'd have to rent a place in the countryside, which wouldn't be good. I was stunned. What did she mean? She automatically assumed my house would be their future wedding home. My son waved at me behind her. I was truly unhappy, so I stood up. I'll go wash off this mask. You two can have some fruit first. But when I finished washing the mask, I found the sofa empty. I searched around and finally spotted them in my yoga room. All this junk in this room can be thrown away. I'll use it as a beauty room. My son scratched his head, unsure how to respond. I coughed lightly, and they both turned to look at me. Alice's face fell instantly, making her look even more like a middle-aged woman at 48. Auntie, why is your face so swollen? I gently touched my cheek and awkwardly said, Hey, I did a few cosmetic procedures. I'm getting older, metabolism. But before I could finish, she interrupted me. How much did you spend? I glanced at my son and then at Alice. I spent $14,000. I thought it was funny. Why should it concern her? But then Alice suddenly exploded in anger. She slammed the door and stormed out, like a stubborn mule, full of defiance. Striding away from my son, I'm raising an eyebrow. It's all so baffling. My son ran out anxious like a stallion. He really resembles his father back in the day. I slowly sat back on the couch and took a bite of the peach my husband bought. So sweet. He knows I love hard peaches and wants to pick the freshest ones from the farm. He's afraid they might get bruised or soft. I dialed my son's number. Mom, I'll talk to you later. I'm really busy. He's so busy that he forgot to hang up. On the other end, he was trying to soothe his girlfriend. Son, baby, why are you so upset? My dad spoils my mom and gives her money for beauty treatments. Doesn't that mean our family atmosphere is great? Girlfriend, but didn't you say your family is living paycheck to paycheck? Your mom just spent so much. What will we do in the future? Son, we can earn it ourselves. Girlfriend, earn? Do you know how tough the job market is now? Senior students are graduating without jobs. Do you really think you'll buy a house right after graduation? Son, we can work hard together. Girlfriend, who can make it on their own nowadays without parental support? I felt a strange pang in my heart. Actually, Alice was right. It's definitely tougher now than it was in our time. Back then, there were many opportunities and little risk. With just a bit of luck, anyone could soar. I nodded. It seems girls really mature faster than boys. My son dating Alice might not be a bad thing. But then she said something that completely broke my composure. How old is your mom? Who is she doing cosmetic treatments for? The money she spends, in the end, is mine anyway. This sounds so familiar. Thinking back, isn't she the girl bee from the cosmetic clinic who often complained outside our door? My son kept trying to appease her, but she remained relentless. In the end, he agreed to buy her a gift just to calm her down. The next afternoon, my son invited me to the mall. I thought he wanted to show me some delicious food and trick me into paying. When we arrived, I found out it was a gold shop. Alice was greedily trying on various jewelry pieces. She saw me and didn't seem surprised at all. She forced a smile. Oh, Auntie is here. Then she turned her face away to continue trying on gold items with the sales staff. She was quite bold, showing no concern for the designs, only the weight mattered. I asked the staff to bring me some pieces to try on as well. Then I casually asked my son, is there a new restaurant opening? Did you invite me to eat? My son awkwardly glanced at Alice, who shot him a stern look. I pretended not to see and continued trying on jewelry. Alice put away her resentment and smiled at the staff, saying, I'll take this. I really like it, perfect for young people. I also smiled at the staff, saying, wrap this one for me. It's heavy, perfect for middle-aged people. The staff glanced between us and then at my son. She tactfully handed Alice's bill to my son. Sir, that'll be $20,000. Please pay over there. Then she handed my bill to me. Ma'am, that'll be $80,000. Please pay over there. Alice snatched the bill from my son's hand and shoved it into mine. I was stunned. What are you doing? Do you want me to pay for your things too? Auntie, it's not your money, it's Uncle's. Half of Uncle's money belongs to Jack, so it's only right for you to pay. I ignored her and walked straight up to my son. Jack, what did your dad teach you? His brow furrowed, and after a moment, he looked at me and said firmly, "A man should rely on himself and support his own world." I handed him the bill. He took it, looked at the amount, and tore it into pieces. "Alice, we're still students. This bracelet is too expensive. Once I start working, I promise." Alice snatched the torn paper and, in front of everyone, threw it back at him. "Waste. You can't even buy what your woman wants." Then she grabbed her bag and stormed off. My son looked embarrassed, tears welling in his eyes. "Son." I tugged at his hand. He looked up, paused, then smiled and lowered his head to me. "Mom, let's go get something good to eat." At the dinner, Rocky arrived too. He asked our son how he felt. My son's hands trembled as he picked up his chopsticks, then put them down again. "I think Alice is just taking it out on my mom. Her family isn't well off, so her views on spending are different from ours. Every time she sees my mom spending freely, she gets upset. But she really doesn't just want my money. We're a couple. I can see how she looks at me. She likes me." I wanted to stand up and slap him. What a clueless son. His first love, his fate, her true love for his money. Young men in love really can't see the truth, can they? He tightened his grip on my hand. "Mom, I know you don't like her. That's because your backgrounds are different. She's struggled, so she resents all excess." I found it amusing. "But he's my child. I have a duty to educate him." So I patted his hand and said, "Son, I understand. As long as you like her, your dad and I won't interfere in your relationship." His eyes immediately lit up. "Really? You really won't oppose me being with her?" Rocky clenched his fists, pounding his thighs under the table in frustration. But seeing my look, he had to relent. Not opposing. If you like her, that's fine. But son, Dad, I know, a man relies on himself. I absolutely won't ask you for another cent. From now on, I'll rely on myself." Good son. I wanted to check my son's past expenses. He's never been one to spend much. But in recent months, he often asked me for living expenses in advance. But I was shocked when I looked. Not only did he spend the $5,000 monthly on various items for girls, he also went out to work. The $1,000 or $2,000 he earned went entirely to Alice. I worriedly looked at him. "Son, if you're not asking for money from your parents anymore, is earning $1,000 or $2,000 a month really enough?" He nodded eagerly, like a silly dog. "It's enough, Mom. I don't spend much on food." "What about your girlfriend?" "Mom, don't worry. Alice loves me for who I am. I'll talk to her, and she'll definitely support my independence." Good son. To prove that Alice truly loves him, he often shared their sweet moments with me. They went shopping together, ate street food together. But I could clearly sense that Alice was gradually losing patience. She probably didn't believe that a wealthy family would neglect their only child. So she was certain we would eventually give our son hundreds of thousands, even millions. Thus, she started to play the role of a good girl who shares both hardship and joy. One day, my son called, and I happened to hear Alice's voice nearby. So I spoke to him with a choked voice. "Jack, I wanted to toughen you up by cutting off your living expenses, but now," sob. My son panicked. "What's wrong now?" "Mom, don't cry, just tell me. Now, your dad has been investigated, and we have a 30 million hole to fill," sob. My son weakly said, "How could this happen?" "I'm sorry, son. You might really have to rely on yourself from now on, and the family needs your support." "Mom, don't worry, I'm here for you." After hanging up on him, I called the cosmetic center. I told the nurse to let me know if that girl came into the shop. I'd arrange for her to get a treatment as a staff benefit. The nurse agreed, somewhat confused. Soon, I received her message. I had the nurse set us up in a consultation room, separated by a curtain. Everyone needed to be quiet, and then I turned on my phone to record. "Girl A, Nwan, I heard that your boyfriend's family went bankrupt." Girl B, "Yes. Don't mention it. It's so annoying. His prodigal mother is to blame." Girl A, "Isn't it his father who embezzled?" Girl B, "It must be his mother's bad luck that affected his father. That unlucky old woman has affected my future good life." Girl A, "So what are you going to do now? If you stay with him in the future, you might have to pay off debts together." Girl B, "Are you stupid or am I stupid? Of course I can't be with him. Now that I've spent all the money in Jack's hand, I'll find an opportunity to break up with him." I let out a long sigh. Great. I don't have to do it myself. The false news of Rocky's bankruptcy not only brought out Alice, it also brought out another group of people. His younger brother Peter and his family of 3. These 3 people are all vampires. Peter likes to pretend to be rich and show off with his wife and son. When he can't hold on anymore, he comes to my house and asks for as much as he can. He always says that my son has no manliness at all and is not worthy to be his elder brother's son. He says that his son Steven is a real man and will inherit all his elder brother's inheritance in the future. Steven, this kid, has always thought that Jack shouldn't have been born. He thinks that Jack has snatched his identity and status, so he opposes Jack everywhere. If he can snatch it, he snatches it. If he can't, he destroys it. But Jack studies well and is admitted to a good university. Steven, on the other hand, barely gets into the technical school next door and learns to be a chef by turning an iron spoon every day. This false news of my family's bankruptcy has really worried them. They came to my house overnight. They cried to Rocky with tears and snot, "Big brother, you can't ignore us. Before you are liquidated, you must settle us down first, right?" Rocky frowned tightly and stared at me firmly. He seemed to be complaining to me. "You caused this mess. You solve it well." I nodded repeatedly and wiped the corners of my eyes with a tissue. Alas, this house is definitely not going to be kept. It can be sold for more than 10 million. Those 3 people were scared into a cold sweat. I looked at them, but I also want to keep something. I especially like that sports car. You can drive it away for me first. Someday when it is transferred to your name, I can still drive it from time to time. Steven jumped up in excitement. "Great, I love that sports car." I patted my brother-in-law's hand and said, "We can't help you too much in the future. For now, we can still give a little gift to support our nephew's marriage. But I wonder, does he have a girlfriend?" The 3 of them looked at each other, unsure how to respond. Steven leaned in and smiled. "And, does my cousin have a girlfriend?" I pretended to be surprised. "He has a girlfriend? Really? That's wonderful." Steven waved his hands in a panic. No, I just thought he might have one." I slumped my shoulders. "Oh, I thought he was doing well. Turns out I was just overthinking." "And, do you really want my cousin to settle down?" I smiled bitterly. "Not necessarily, but I'm traditional. If the Rocky family line doesn't continue, I feel like I'm failing as the eldest daughter-in-law." Steven's eyes sparkled. "It's not a must for my cousin to settle down. We're both from the same dad." I excitedly patted his shoulder. "You're definitely more sensible than your cousin. I was thinking of gifting the downtown house to your family's first grandson. But with time pressing, I wonder if it's still possible." Everyone fell silent. Each had their own agenda. Steven had been harboring resentment because my son performed better in school. Since he loves stealing from my son, I doubt he wouldn't try to snag a girlfriend. Exactly. This was the huge trap I set. Human nature is like that. Especially young people, driven by desire, become easier puppets for others. The next day, Steven drove my sports car to flaunt it at my son's school. He specifically circled where Alice was likely to appear. In no time, he lured Alice into the car. I watched as the 2 of them shamelessly enjoyed each other inside. Then my son called. "Mom, I broke up with Alice." I guessed as much. "You were right. She only loves my money." She said a pretty girl like her can't be supported by someone without money. She doesn't want to share debts with me later. My son choked on his words, extremely sad. I felt sorry for him too. But in the age of pure love, encountering the wrong person can be a kind of experience. "You should go abroad next semester." With the family in this state, where's the money for me to go abroad? "I want to stay and work a few extra jobs to help you and Dad." "Oh, I say you should go abroad, so go." I hung up the phone. Now was not the time to tell my son the truth. He must continue to feel sad. Let Steven taste the sweetness. During the Easter Day family gathering, Steven deliberately sat opposite my son, bragging about finding a girlfriend. Their relationship was stable, and they were about to get engaged. My son naturally knew his girlfriend had been taken away, but young men care about their pride. He didn't want to lose face in front of the family, so he didn't say much, looking down at his book, seeming more mature. Meanwhile, Steven's smug demeanor was infuriating. My brother-in-law spoke up first. "Sister-in-law, Xiao Jia said the girl is willing to marry him." I picked at my nails, not looking up. "Oh, that's nice. Then we can't not give her a betrothal gift, right?" "Yes, of course." I raised my head. "How much do you think is appropriate?" I leaned forward. "How much are you planning to give?" Steven happily started calculating. "My girlfriend." He deliberately emphasized "my," casting a scornful glance at Jack. "My girlfriend wants a diamond ring and some other necessities. We calculated it, and it'll cost around 120,000. She also wants a beauty treatment card." He rambled on, but I only heard one key point. A betrothal gift of 1 million. My brother-in-law tried to smooth things over. "Oh, with the bankruptcy, how can we afford that?" Steven looked unhappy. "I'm doing this for our family's legacy. Naturally, I need my money first, then we'll deal with the bankruptcy. I nodded. That's right, absolutely. My brother-in-law looked pleased. Sister-in-law, does this mean you agree? I smiled and said, of course, I agree. What reason do I have to disagree? It's not my money. Then about the money. I leaned closer to Rocky. Honey, is there any cash left at home? My husband, not one to lie, was forced to stomp his feet. No, we have nothing. I began counting on my fingers. Well, I'll sell some jewelry and a storefront on the edge of town. My brother-in-law was thrilled. Hey, no need to rush. In the following days, Stephen constantly messaged me. Are the necessities my girlfriend picked nice, Aunt? Here's the beauty treatment card my girlfriend got. My girlfriend wants a BMW. I was curious where he got the money. He replied without a care. I got a few small loans to handle the serious stuff first. On the day Stephen and Alice got their marriage certificate, he sent me an electronic invitation. I forwarded it to my son beside me. He read it expressionlessly and then said to me, Mom, you saw it. I nodded. Yes, I already knew what Alice and Stephen were up to. Are you disappointed that I can't keep a girlfriend and can't give you a grandson soon? I laughed and ruffled my son's hair. Who told you I want a grandson? Have I had enough of good days? Am I crazy? He was taken aback. Then during this time, I rolled my eyes and waved my hand. I never said I'd give them money for the wedding. It has nothing to do with me. So, I laid out my plans for the past few days to my son. I also shared the recorded conversations from the beauty center with him. His expression darkened. I really was blind. I squeezed my son's hand. Your dad makes money with his own abilities. How could he be checked? The family is doing well. In a few days, let's go to their wedding together, okay? My son smiled. After all this time, he finally smiled genuinely. Alice and Stephen chose an incredibly luxurious hotel for their wedding. They really saw themselves as wealthy. I was treated as a VIP by my brother and sister-in-law. Welcome to the main table. When Alice saw us, her face turned pale. She stood before me, gripping Stephen's hand tightly. Honey, who are they? Stephen smiled brightly. This is my uncle and aunt. He turned to me, Aunt, this is my wife Alice. I keep my word. I'm determined to carry on the family line. Nuan Nuan is already 3 months pregnant. I extended my hand with a smile. Congratulations. Aunt, my wife, in the past. Before he finished, I interrupted. Used to be your cousin's girlfriend. Stephen was shocked. You knew? I waved my hand with a smile. When you flaunted my car, I knew what you were up to. Not exposing you doesn't mean we're fools. Alice, hearing this, couldn't contain her anger. What? The sports car isn't yours? It's their family's? My son was sitting nearby, cracking sunflower seeds loudly. Yes, that sports car is my mom's. It'll be mine from now on. Alice was completely stunned. Didn't your family go bankrupt? At this time, the son put down his book and raised his eyes. My mom was lying. What did you say? Lying to me? You actually don't trust me and test me with such a sinister means. The son took out his mobile phone and Alice's voice came from it. Are you stupid or am I stupid? Of course I can't be with him. Now that I've spent all the money in Jack's hand, I'll find an opportunity to break up with him. Old woman. Stinky woman. Alice angrily threw the bouquet in her hand at my face. The son caught it and threw it back on the ground. The fresh bouquet can't stand such tossing. The petals instantly scattered all over the ground. Security, security, come on, throw this disgusting mother and son out. At this time, the younger brother's wife stood up and slapped Alice on the face. An instant red mark appeared on Alice's face. Her slightly swollen face was now half big and half small. Are you crazy? How can you talk to your aunt? I coughed a few times. Stephen, how much loan did you spend on this wedding in total? Stephen fiddled with his fingers and began to calculate. Wedding venue, 5 gold items, diamond ring. It cost almost 6 or 700,000. I looked at my younger brother's wife with a smile. Sister-in-law, how much is your family's monthly income now? My younger brother's wife's face was slightly stunned. She probably sensed the danger, so she pinched my arm flatteringly and said, Sister-in-law, don't joke with us. My family's monthly income doesn't exceed 8,000. The son said coldly, then where did you get the courage to take out a loan of 600,000 to hold a wedding? Stephen's face instantly darkened. Aunt, didn't you say you would give me money? I stood up with a smile. That's right. Here, this is the gift money our family of 3 has prepared for you. Congratulations on your marriage. I stuffed a red envelope containing $1,000 in cash into Stephen's hand. Then I turned around and was about to leave. You fucking lied to me. I stopped and glared at him fiercely. I lied to you? You have bullied Jack since you were a child. Don't look in the mirror and see what kind of person you are. Do you deserve to compete with my son? I tell you, if you didn't deliberately snatch Alice just to bully him at the beginning, I would have given you a lot of gift money today. But now, there's no way. I looked at Alice again. And you, a greedy, vain and vulgar woman, only knows to live by relying on men. Don't see if you have that intelligence. If you had pretended to be by my son's side for 2 more months, there would be several million more in the card today. But what about you? You are ungrateful. Wait for good days to come to you. The son waved the car key in his hand at Stephen. I'll drive the car away. Thank you for filling up the gas. Stephen shouted without any regard for dignity behind us. Aunt, you said you would give a sweet to the eldest grandson. I also shouted without any regard for dignity. I regret it. According to relatives, Alice made a scene at the wedding. She scolded Stephen as a pretentious liar. The whole family are poor people who show off. How dare they pretend to be rich when they have no money? How dare they want to marry her Alice when they have no money? Stephen is not an easy person either. He directly performed domestic violence on the spot. He beat Alice until she was looking for her teeth all over the floor. Slut. If it weren't for you, would Aunt's family ignore my life and death? It's all your fault. The younger brother and his wife also know what kind of person Stephen is. It's good that he can marry a wife, not to mention a beautiful girl like Alice. So they pacified the 2 newcomers on both sides. You have all received your marriage certificates. If you separate now, you will both be divorced and remarried. Yes, yes. For a girl who is divorced and remarried, she is not so valuable anymore. Why not give birth to the child first? When your uncle and aunt see the child, their hearts will soften and they will definitely give you money. In this way, everyone expects that after I see the child, I will be generous with them. How beautiful they think. It was me who made great achievements and was powerful back then. Didn't Rocky reach where he is today relying on me? Do they really think there is only one kind of full-time wife who holds out her hand for money? If I'm really provoked, I can even give up my son, not to mention a child born to an outsider. In this way, Alice stayed in confinement honestly and didn't go to school anymore. After several times, due to missing exams and insufficient credits, the school directly expelled her. She did give birth to a son. However, our family of 3 doesn't care at all. On the day my son went abroad, Alice came to the airport in a crazy way. She looked several years older. She was bloated all over and had no complexion at all. Husband, don't go. I was wrong. I really know I was wrong. The son gently pushed away her hand and asked her to be self-respecting. Don't you want me anymore? Don't you remember how happy we were when we were together? I was really confused for a moment and was with your cousin. But in my heart, I have only loved you all along. Sister-in-law, I don't care who you love, but I know that I have no feelings for you at all now. I tilted my head and looked curiously at the scene in front of me. Alice screamed wildly, husband, take me with you. Take me abroad with you, husband. I also want to go abroad and have a look. I burst out laughing. Such an obvious purpose. I made a video call to Stephen and said to him gently, isn't your baby Xiaobao hungry? His mother has been out for so long. So half an hour later, Stephen rushed to the airport like crazy. He and Alice got into a fight. Stephen threw punches one after another. Alice was fierce. Neither of them got the upper hand. They left the airport covered in bruises. A cold wind blew, blowing up Alice's long hair that had fallen all over the ground. The cleaning lady kept complaining. Whose dog's hair is falling all over the place? It's so annoying. There's still some after sweeping once. Stephen's family of several people often come to my house with the baby to please us. Alice is frustrated and helpless. Every time, she will walk around my house. Then she will go to my yoga room and stare blankly for a long time. She sighed and shook her head repeatedly. There might really have been a chance for it to become her beauty room. If my son liked it, presumably I would be willing to let this house out for them to live in. Rocky and I had long thought that when we retire, we will rent a small courtyard in the suburbs, enjoy a pleasant rural life. I will still occasionally support my younger brother's family, but the amount will never be too much. They have a hard time raising the child, which forces Alice to go out and make money. As the saying goes, marry a chicken and follow the chicken, marry a dog and follow the dog. Stephen is a chef in a restaurant, and Alice also set up a small cart and sells fried skewers. The 2 often fight. Stephen will pick up the iron pot at hand and slap Alice hard. Alice will also pick up the bamboo stick at hand and stab Stephen at a fatal place. A few years later, my son became a new star in the financial world abroad. He said he is very rich. The kind of rich that his father and I can't even imagine. He also married a beautiful wife. Knowledgeable, reasonable, elegant, and gentle. It is said that this girl's family conditions are not good either. But she is very excellent and went abroad to study through her own efforts. On the day when the parents of the two families met, I asked the parents of the other side, how much betrothal gift money is appropriate? They waved their hands. It doesn't matter. As long as the daughter is happy. Then let's renovate this 200 square meter house in the urban area and use it as your wedding room. The daughter-in-law nodded with a smile. Thank you, Mom. I liked this house very much when I first went there. If you like it, then it's yours. If you are happy, you can turn my yoga room into your beauty room. One day, I went to deliver fruits that my daughter-in-law likes to eat. She asked me to help choose a set of cosmetics to give to her doctoral supervisor for the festival. I was comparing the packages when the doorbell at home rang. The daughter-in-law opened the door and saw Alice standing at the door. She was deliberately dressed up, but in any case, she couldn't cover the plateau red left by years of wind and sun. Excuse me, who are you looking for? The daughter-in-law is very polite. Alice is a little timid, looking at the woman from another world in front of her. Her eyes are sour. I am Jack's former friend. I heard that he is back. I came to see him. The daughter-in-law immediately took her hand. Really? Then Jack will be very happy. Come in and have a glass of water. Alice carefully put a plastic bag on the floor at the door. Inside, a few small apples bought from the morning market rolled out, just like her unstoppable shame. Green and cheap. Alice looked around the room. You have renovated the house. Yes, Mom and Dad are clamoring to live in a small courtyard in the suburbs and insist that we move here. Let me show you around. The daughter-in-law led Alice to look at everything that had been renovated, pushed open the door that she was familiar with. This used to be Mom's yoga room. I didn't want to move it and wanted to keep it for her to use when she comes back. But she insists on turning it into my beauty room. Old people are so stubborn. Alice suddenly stopped and turned around and looked at me. I stood up and smoothed the wrinkles on my body. This set is fine. I like them all. Your supervisor will definitely like it too. The daughter-in-law raised her eyebrows. Mom likes it? Then I'll buy 2 sets. For things that Mom likes, we must be filial to Mom first. I looked at Alice with a smile, but my mouth was talking to my daughter-in-law. I'm so old. Who am I putting on cosmetics for? Why do you want to show it to others? Women always put on makeup to please themselves. Listen, Alice, this is the difference between you. The difference is obvious. Alice will never understand a truth in her life. Women never turn over by relying on men. Behind a successful man, there must be an extremely intelligent woman. So intelligent that the men around her all know that their success is inseparable from her. So there is never anything for nothing in this world. Men and women have different divisions of labor. Who can tell clearly which is more important and which is less important? Only stupid people want to rely on others. Just like her, Alice. The end. If you like Puppy's story, please follow and like it. Updated every morning at 9 a.m.